person here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for some more tag time. I've pulled out a couple of the backgrounds from the other day, textured distress paint backgrounds. I'll link to that video below in case you haven't seen it. And I've mounted these two on just some scrap cardboard because, as you can see, I've gathered a few bits and bobs that I think I might want to use with them. And some of them are dimensional or maybe quite hefty. They may not get used, but if they do, then I need something a bit more substantial than just the tag background. Yeah, I'm just going to have a play. I'm wondering whether I want to use some of these bits and bobs. I think they're made by Tando, who I believe are a UK company. And I just think it might be quite nice to have an actual ring around there. I think this will give them a bit of presence. And so obviously I want to alter that. These are cut out of thick grey board. So they lend themselves beautifully to being altered. I need to keep hold of those bits. So I might stick them in one of my little tins for now, in with the labels. That'll do for now. And yeah, I'm thinking if I want them rusty, what I'll start with is giving them just a little touch of grit paste or sand paste, could be either, because I'm planning to paint it afterwards, just to give a bit of gnarly texture to those, and then we can set those aside to dry. While I think this can be easier with my fingers, to be honest. There we go. Let's get that out. It's just a little sort of finessing of adding texture to those. Yeah, it would have been much easier just to start with my fingers. There we go. Just smear it on there. And then we can come back and add some colour product just to give those a nice rusty metallic look, or dirty grungy look, or yeah, we'll see how we go. I'm thinking one of my favourite sort of combinations is industrially grunge with dried florals, wasted sort of the dried flowers, decay. So industrial rust, decay, nature's decay, the dried flowers and seed heads. That kind of world is what I'm thinking of moving in. I found these deep in the stash. I've been doing some sorting, they're by Prima, I believe. Junkyard Findings they were. Probably Finnabear. And I wondered whether it was about time to use those as a light bulb, because I went straight to pull out Tim Holtz light bulbs. They might be a bit too big and chunky, or they might be really cool. I mean, there is something about the plaster texture of these that I absolutely love, and don't want to cover up too much, but do want to sort of draw attention to. And there's maybe something quite nice about being able to see through those to behind. Let's have a look at one of the Tim Holtz ones in position. I do also have some old ones that were given me by an engineer, a little bit smaller. See, that's already quite a nice balancing act, isn't it, between those two, the upright and the horizontal. Do I want create is the question. I think I probably do want create for today. That'll do. We've got inspire, adventure, live, believe, enjoy. I think we could happily go with create. That's quite chunky. I think maybe it wants 2 on here. I could use 2 Tim Holtz bulbs, or I could go and get my engineering ones. I feel like that might make a better balancing act in terms of comparison. And already I've got the delight of, I've got a vertical and a horizontal going on. Question is, do I want to put a little shelf for these to sit on, whether actual or metaphorical? If I've got a coffee stirrer around, I could just create a little kind of shelf. Just having a think. Ooh, or that little, so this is again a little wooden cutout. This is Calico Crafts create these. and that's kind of a perfect shelf. However, I don't think I want to use the one saying found treasures, because I might actually want to use the one saying found treasures. I'm sure there are some that say things I'm not particularly interested in saying, so I'm going to go and have a look. Yeah, so here they are. I was once upon a time on the design team for Calico Crafts, so I've got lots of these bits and bobs. I think I'm probably never going to use Anchors Away as Anchors Away. That's simply not going to happen. So we will pop those to one side. That could also go to one side. Now this is going to make an excellent shelf for those. Do I want it right at that halfway point? I quite like it on that horizontal line there, and it's also going to help it glue down if I can get it right in that line. It's exactly the right width. That's quite good. Question being, is that going to allow me to... I could get a stem across that, or maybe what we do is we have those kinds of stems on there, and I've got some... Yeah, look, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to get to the flowery bit. What else do I want? Those are drying. We'll come to those in a minute. I was thinking about a bit of wire wrapped round, or a bit of... I've got some sort of Hessian mesh. It's a little bit too rustic. I'm more in an industrial mode. I've got my rusty mesh and rusty chicken wire. That might be interesting. I tend to keep it in the bag so that bits of rust don't fly off everywhere. Let's give that a little snip and see if we want some. Come through those middle bits. Be careful when you're using rusty metal. You don't want to dig it into your fingers. That's not what happened here. That was a splinter yesterday when I was painting something wooden. You don't want it sticking into your fingers. You don't want rusty blood poisoning. Really, one should probably wear some gloves. But I'm too busy. Too busy to put gloves on. So I'm thinking we might run through something like that, so that we can have maybe one run of chicken wire going under here, and one run of chicken wire going sort of under there, over there, under there, over there. That obviously is too much of a straight line chicken wire wise, so we'll take some out. Ooh, that's good. I like that. That's a lot more interesting. See how much more interesting that is than the straight line? That straight line lined up with there, that straight line lined up with there. Just switch that over. That might be more interesting. Need to lose that bit, it's getting in the way of my bulb. So I want the bulb further over. That's quite cool. That's quite cool. Might trim that later just to make a slightly straighter line down there. Those are there. That's nice. So you see, that's a way of adding an element, but I'm keeping all that gorgeous background texture in place. Wondering whether I should start gluing things down already. Ooh, but I do also have, so this is some, it's kind of rusted rice paper, I guess, that I thought might give us some interesting texture. And again, it's got a translucence to it, so you can sort of see things through it. I thought that might be quite a nice element to have in the mix, or it might just detract too much from these backgrounds and be annoying. Let's have a look at that. I'm going to need to cover up Anchors Away, because if you look from below you can see it. I'm in two minds about that, as you can hear. Maybe better is to have it going along that edge. I quite like that, rather than right along the middle. Maybe there's something there. That's quite good. And I'm thinking if I ink it, it'll probably give us a... Yes, I like that. Let's do something similar this side. So I do need to keep one of these straight lines. And I think we'll maybe make that one a little bit chunkier. There we go. I think it's just got something nice about it. Again, I don't really want it completely behind the bulb, so let's take that off. It's nice having a little bit behind the bulb because it sort of draws attention to the fact that I can see through the bulb. I can now see the line of that paper. Ooh, that's looking cool. Okay, I will do some gluing down now. And then when I come back, hopefully these will be dry enough to add just a bit of detail to. I'm going to glue this down and maybe just darken the back of this so that those show up less. Okay, back shortly. I'm just hopping back on during the gluing to show you how cool it is, how this rice paper, you can get it right down into these textures. I've just rubbed some trusty French roast over the lettering there, so that's much less obvious because it's nice and dark. But when you put this on, this is really scrummy. So just a little bit of the Distress Collage medium, any soft decoupage type glue will do. Just getting that approximately where it needs to be for that paper. Might need to put a little bit more in places. But then when you've got that there, just making sure you then go over with, look how that goes down in between the texture. You still get to see the texture, but you get this really cool grungy surface over the top. That's going to need trimming. I clearly didn't close the door properly. I think I want just a little bit down here because that's just sticking out a bit much to me down there at the bottom. I'll trim it later. I don't like how it suddenly stops with that edge. So that will give us a little cover there. Trim along those edges when it's dry, and I'll get back to gluing these down. So with this piece, that's going to be a question of just hitting with my glue in the places where I can see it's making contact, getting that down. I'll make sure I'm where I want to be before I glue it. I have shifted downwards a little bit with this because this one is dictated completely by where that line is. Grand. I'm going to close the door properly so it stops creaking like a horror movie. Glue these down and I'll be back to do some things with those rings and some flowers. And for the bulbs, I'm going to use my super duper thick, super heavy gel medium that, yeah, is just really good at making things grab straight away. I have a feeling that I first discovered this stuff in a workshop with Finnabair, an in-person workshop with Finnabair many years ago when I first started my creative journey. So at the moment, that is gloopy and thick and white. But as it dries, it will dry clear. The other option is glossy accents is really great for this. In fact, maybe I'll switch. No, I think I want the firm hold of that, and I'll trust that it's going to dry clear eventually. And then on these, the same thing. Glossy accents, of course, if you are gluing glass, is good because glossy accents is already clear. But I think just to hold these in place, let's see where it touches and where do I want them exactly. Let's have a look. With room for flowers to go that way, something like that. So I'm going to have just a little bit behind the glass there, but really the bulk of it on this lower part. And it's also making contact with the shelf, so it's probably worth having a little bit right on the bottom for additional hold. The joy of this stuff, as Finnabair pointed out to us all those years ago, is it's thick like cream cheese or peanut butter, and it already holds the thing. I mean, unless it's really heavy. those will stay basically put. You can see I've got my trusty crafting friend, the clothes peg, in action on holding those wiry bits while they dry. And so again, we're going to set these aside so that we can have a little work on these. Let's just check that we do want them there. Yes, I think we do. I think that's going to be fun. It's going to want to be quite a dark rust. Let's pop the lid back on there so it doesn't dry out in the meantime. What it does do is glue itself shut, I find. But a little bit of boiling water kind of poured into the rim of the lid gets it. I'll try to clean that off a bit before I shut it up properly. I'll keep it available for now because I think I'm probably going to come back to it. Grand. So now those are drying, we can set those kind of slightly out of the way. Come back to these. I think I might start with a bit of French roast and a bit of trusty Quinacridone gold. This is the DecoArt fluid mixed media fluid acrylics is what it's called itself. Excellent rustiness from the Quinacridone gold. Golden also do one. Cosmic Shimmer, I think, in the UK have a Quin gold acrylic, and it's just a really good rustiness. What do I want? I want a sort of bodging brush. I don't want anything too, so that's fairly stiff bristled. And I'm just going to go in first of all with that, and you can see that's a bright rust, much brighter than most of the rusts I'm interested in, and certainly a bit too much for these tags, which are in quite a subtle soft neutral. So then I'm going to come in with some of that French roast, knock it back a bit. A raw umber will do. French roast is very much a sort of raw umbery kind of colour. And then I can come back again with some of the rustiness. Just going to make sure I get round the sides as well and in through the middle. And then it can just be a kind of balancing act between the two. They're both translucent colours despite being acrylic, so you do get quite a bit of flexibility for layering those colours. I think that's probably about where I want to be, a nice dark rust. And what I might do, bring these back and just do a little touch of rusty spatter. You can see I mean, for me, that's a perfect rust colour. Probably want my trusty old spatter brush. So I dripped some water on there, but it's fine. These are distress paints, not distress inks, if you remember from that background. And so they will just stay put. I just want to add a bit of dark so that those, when they appear, are not completely by themselves. And I might also just trickle a bit of rustiness around there, giving the impression that that rust has spread a little bit when we stick that on. So again, it's not coming completely out of nowhere. Just kind of across there, a little bit of grungy spreading rust. And the other place I'm quite interested in seeing what happens is if I apply a little bit over this paper, just for another layer of grungy shading. A bit tricky with all these clothes pegs in between, but I think that's probably quite nice. I might have made it too watery, but one can always pick up a little bit more. There's usually some just in the lid there, and there was definitely a droplet left over here. I saw it. So that brings back a bit of that colour. And again, I'm just going to do that in quite a random way around there. Actually, that texture is quite good, really, with the scabby brush. And then let's add some to this paper. Get that rusty look. Might take you off. I think you're probably close enough to glued at this point. No, back on with the clothes pegs. There you go. Grand. That's quite exciting. Quite fun. Quite nice as a grungy addition to our textured backgrounds. Great. So those are drying, those are drying, those are drying. Everything's drying. I could apply a heat gun for sure, and I may well do that. Let's have a look where we're at. See, that's quite a dark element at the top there, but I don't dislike it. I think it's nice that it's got that kind of sense of weight to it. Knock it back just a touch. It's still wet. I can see it's still wet. So if I take just a bit of this to it, and then the other thing I can do when it's dry, in fact, let's dry that with a heat tool, and then make it a little bit paler using something like a distress crayon. Great, so there's that grungy texture. I've got my pumice stone distress crayon, and I'm just going to hit the top of that texture with some pumice stone, and that's just going to make it that little bit paler, a little bit more stony, a little bit less dramatic in its contrast to the rest of the tag. I could even hit it with a bit of Tumbled glass distress paint. There it is. And then we'll really have a connection between those and this. I really only need, again, what's sitting there. Teeny little dot of it on there. And just hit. Oh, that makes me happy. Let's get another little dot. There we go. Hit the other one. Just hitting that texture. Knock it back a bit. And with that, I can move it around using some paint. Did I have? Using some water, beg its pardon. There we go. That's what I'm after. Just something that has a relationship to what's going on these tags. Perfect. Perfect. We will do some edging, I think, around these tags as well to get some darkness, particularly around the bottom, to just catch that. Now, I think the clothes pegs are a bit distracting, but I think I can probably have a little play with seeing what I maybe want in terms of flower heads. I quite like the idea of hydrangea flowers growing up those iron mesh as though it was a trellis. It's quite pleasurable. And yes, I know these are fragile and they may well come apart at some point in the future, but it's not meant to be art for the ages. This is part of its beauty, as with flowers, as with spring flowers, particularly the spring blossom on the trees. It's here for such a short time, and I think that's part of what makes it so achingly beautiful, is that you have to make the most of it while it's there, because then it'll be gone. I think I prefer keeping it. I could have another one sort of floating around, but I think I prefer the idea of keeping it on the trellis, as it were. Let's have a look at these. These are even more fragile looking, but they're actually a little bit sturdier than one kind of imagines. They're very, very dry now, but surprisingly not that brittle. And there might be something quite nice about having a little stem of that. Sort of discarded the idea of the Acrylic. I think I might just stick to Hydrangea. Let's see, are you free to come away? I think if I snip somewhere in there, there's just a little sprig. Might be quite fun, but I do need to see now without the pegs. I think we might get rid of that tall stem. I need to see how that works without the pegs in order to know exactly what I want to have happen there. And I don't want to cover up too much wire mesh either, so getting it sort of to the edges is a better plan so that the mesh itself stays visible. Let's maybe drop it off the bottom there. speaking of which, have I dropped off the bottom here as well? Probably. That's the trouble with just inviting you along inside my creative process. That's my focus, I'm afraid. Rather than fancy camera work and editing. It's a different kind of thing. It's a little game to play together. That's all looking quite nice to me, really. I need to let the wire do a bit more drying. But I'm sort of enjoying how that's shaping up. And while that's drying, I'm going to go and have a little look for some words. It's Small Talk stickers to the rescue again. I don't think I like the single line, so I'm going to snip. And to me, it really matters where I snip. There's a difference between collect beautiful moments and collect beautiful moments. That's not how the phrase wants to work, rhythmically or grammatically. So collect has to be separate, and because I've now trimmed, I need to trim a little bit off the edge. So collect beautiful moments. This one's a little more flexible. I'll straighten that in a minute. You could say creativity takes courage, or you could say creativity takes courage. So linguistically, I'm happy either way. The question is, do I want to go twice with a one word then two words, or would I rather have this one have one word then two words, and this one maybe have two words and then one word? So this is partly about, it's a visual aesthetic as well as a linguistic aesthetic. It's words and pictures. That's what you buy into when you're here. Both of them matter to me profoundly. Creativity takes courage. Creativity takes courage. I think I do want, linguistically is winning. I sort of wanted two words and one word, but I think what I really want is that phrase to work properly. These are slightly sticky, as you can tell. It's determined to go somewhere I don't quite want it. Collect beautiful moments. It's partly because the texture's underneath as well, that there are things getting in the way. But even though they're sticky, I tend to add a little bit more glue. And it might sound ridiculous to talk about creativity needing courage, but even if it's the simple courage of covering up two backgrounds you really, really loved, that, but it also takes courage to try to build a creative life in the face of a society that says you need to prioritise other things. That's good. I like it. I like it. So now all I've got to do is get them to stay there while I put some glue down, and then I think we might be ready to peel away the clothes pegs and just check that that is where I want the flowers to go. If it is, I might finish off with just a little bit of inking around the bottom, just to have some dark at the bottom, but once I get the pegs off I might not. So yeah, I will of course dive in for a close-up. If you've enjoyed that, please do give me a thumbs up. Comments, questions, always delightful down below. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And somebody mentioned the other day that the algorithm hasn't been sharing my videos with them, even though they're a fan. So I highly recommend clicking the bell to be notified. Click the little bell symbol and then you'll get notified when there's a new video here at Words and Pictures. Thanks as always for your company. It wouldn't be the same journey without you. And happy crafting all.